Mark said I needed him to succeed. My 3 projects ended that lie fast. You? Successful without me? Mark spat, loud enough for the entire conference hallway to hear. His hand slapped the folder out of my grip, pages scattering across the floor. Face it, Leah, he sneered, stepping closer, you are nothing without me. I built you. Don't ever forget who carries who. People were watching. Some whispering. Some laughing. And Mark walked away like he owned the world. He didn't know the 3 projects I'd been secretly building were about to launch, and each one would destroy the lie he lived on. I knelt down slowly, gathering my scattered papers with shaking hands. My face burned with humiliation. The conference hallway of Harper & Row Innovations felt like a spotlight pointed directly at my shame. Mark's expensive shoes clicked away confidently while I picked up the remnants of my dignity page by page. But as I collected those papers, something shifted inside me. These weren't just random documents. They were patent applications. Development logs. Proof of ownership. Proof that everything Mark claimed as his was actually mine. I stood up, smoothing my blazer, and walked toward the exit with my head held high. He had no idea what was coming. 3 months earlier, I'd been sitting in that same hallway, watching Mark present his revolutionary prototype to the board of directors. I'd spent 8 months developing that energy storage device. Every circuit, every line of code, every efficiency calculation came from my late nights and sacrificed weekends. The board applauded him. The CEO shook his hand. Someone mentioned a promotion. Mark glanced at me once during the presentation, his eyes cold and dismissive, as if daring me to speak up. I didn't. Not then. But after the meeting ended, I followed him to his office. Mark, we need to talk about the patent filing. My name should be. He cut me off with a laugh. Your name? Leah, you assisted me. That's what assistants do. They assist. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Besides, who's going to believe you did this alone? You barely speak up in meetings. That's when I knew. He'd been planning this all along. Our 3-year relationship, both professional and personal, had been a carefully constructed trap. He'd isolated me from other colleagues, convinced me to keep my work private until it was ready, made me doubt my own capabilities. I'm leaving Harper & Row, I said quietly. Mark's expression darkened. If you leave, I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. I walked out anyway. And I started building my escape plan. I called my childhood friend River from my car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. He's going to bury me. He has connections everywhere. River's voice was steady through the speaker. Then you need to move fast. What do you have? 3 projects, I whispered. I've been developing them in secret for 6 months. All on my personal equipment, all on my own time. He doesn't know about any of them. River was silent for a moment. Leah, are you saying? I'm saying I have 3 innovations that could change everything. And they're all documented as mine. I glanced at the folder on my passenger seat. The same folder Mark had just slapped from my hands. I just need to launch them before he destroys me. Then let's do it. What's Project 1? I explained, a portable energy device that could revolutionize emergency power systems. Compact, efficient, affordable. I'd been refining it during every lunch break, every weekend, every moment Mark thought I was doing nothing important. There's a national competition in 3 days, River said, pulling it up on her phone. Independent tech creators. First prize is $50,000 and investor meetings. My heart raced. I can't compete against Mark's network. You're not competing against his network. You're competing with your work. River's voice turned firm. Enter it, Leah. Right now. I pulled over, opened my laptop, and submitted Project 1 to the competition. The confirmation email arrived instantly. I stared at it, realizing there was no going back now. Mark would find out. And when he did, the real battle would begin. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with an email that made my stomach drop. Application status, under review. Everyone else in the competition received instant confirmations. Mine was flagged. I called the helpline immediately. Miss Hale, we received a complaint claiming your submission contains stolen intellectual property. My blood turned cold. From who? A Mark Alden from Harper & Row Innovations. Of course. He'd found out already. Somehow, he discovered my entry and moved to block me before I could even start. I hung up and immediately began compiling evidence. Timestamped files. Development logs from my personal laptop. Emails to myself documenting each breakthrough. Photos of my home workspace with dates embedded in the metadata. The competition deadline was in 18 hours. I worked through the night, rebuilding my entire submission with legal documentation attached. My internet connection was agonizingly slow. I watched the upload bar crawl forward while the clock ticked down. 15 minutes before deadline. 10. 5. The page froze. I refreshed desperately, my heart hammering. No, no, no. The confirmation screen appeared with 90 seconds to spare. Submission accepted. I collapsed over my keyboard, exhausted and terrified. Mark had tried to stop me. But I'd gotten through anyway. Now the real fight would begin. 1 week later, the email arrived. Congratulations, Leah Hale. You have been selected as a finalist. I screamed so loud River came running from the other room. What? What happened? I couldn't speak. I just showed her the screen. But my celebration died when I scrolled down. Mark Alden was listed on the finalist roster, 7 spots below me. I ranked 4th out of 200 entries. He ranked 11th. I beat him. With my own work, on my own merit, I outranked Mark Alden. My phone rang. Unknown number. My hand shook as I answered. Leah. Mark's voice was tight, controlled, dangerous. I'm giving you one chance to do the right thing. Drop out of this competition. No. You don't understand what you're doing. I have connections. I have resources. I can destroy your reputation before you even step on that stage. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. See you at the competition, Mark. I hung up and immediately blocked his number. River stared at me. Are you sure you're ready for this? I thought about the folder scattered across the hallway floor. About 3 years of manipulation. About every time he made me feel small. I've been ready for months, I said. He just didn't notice. River grinned. Then let's win this thing. But neither of us knew what Mark would do next. And we were about to find out the hard way. Competition day arrived like a storm. The convention center buzzed with hundreds of creators setting up displays, testing equipment, adjusting presentations. I arrived 2 hours early, rolling my cart toward booth 47. Then I saw it. My booth was destroyed. The banner was shredded into ribbons. My display screen had a massive crack across the center. Wires were cut, components scattered everywhere like someone had taken a hammer to everything. My carefully prepared setup, demolished. I stood there, frozen, as other competitors walked past. Some whispered. Some stared. Nobody offered to help. River appeared beside me, face pale with shock. Leah, who would? She stopped. We both knew exactly who would. I checked my watch. 1 hour and 45 minutes until judging started. We can still fix this, River said, but her voice wavered. No. I knelt down, examining the damage. We can't fix this. We have to rebuild it. In under 2 hours? I met her eyes. We don't have a choice. River ran to find an electronics store while I salvaged what I could from the wreckage. My hands worked automatically. Sorting components, testing connections, identifying what was still functional. 90 minutes. 60. 30. We rebuilt the circuit board using backup parts I'd brought. We rigged the display using River's tablet. The banner was gone, so I handwrote a new one on poster board with a marker. It looked terrible. Unprofessional. Desperate. But it was mine. 5 minutes before judging, we finished. That's when the lead judge approached, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a clipboard. "Miss Hale? We need to discuss something urgent." My heart sank. Now what? The judge led me to a small office away from the crowds. River tried to follow, but the judge shook her head. "Just Miss Hale, please." Inside, another official sat waiting. The door closed behind me with a heavy click. "Someone filed a formal complaint this morning," the lead judge said, sliding papers across the desk. "They claim your prototype is stolen intellectual property belonging to Mark Alden." I'd been expecting this. I pulled out my folder, the one I'd been carrying everywhere since that hallway confrontation, and spread the contents across the desk methodically. Timestamped development logs showing 8 months of work. Email chains I'd sent to myself documenting each breakthrough. Witness statements from River and 2 former colleagues. Photos of my home workspace with embedded dates. Patent search results proving my design predated any of Mark's filings. "Mark Alden stole my design," I said firmly, keeping my voice steady. "I have 8 months of documentation proving every component of Project 1 originated from my independent work." He supervised nothing. He contributed nothing. He took credit for everything. The 2 judges examined each document carefully. Minutes stretched into eternity. My palms were sweating. Finally, the lead judge looked up. "This is very compelling evidence, Miss Hale." I exhaled slightly. "However," she continued, "I need to warn you, when this becomes public, there will be significant media attention. Are you prepared for that level of scrutiny?" Media attention. Public exposure. Everything I'd been avoiding my entire career. But I thought about Mark's sneer. His certainty that I'd stay silent. His assumption that I was too weak to fight. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." The judge almost smiled. "Then let's proceed with your presentation." The auditorium held 300 people. Investors, journalists, fellow competitors, industry executives. I walked onto the stage carrying my rebuilt prototype, and every eye in the room locked onto me. I spotted Mark in the back row, arms crossed, jaw clenched tight. I began my presentation. My voice didn't shake this time. I explained the energy optimization algorithms, the cost-benefit analysis, the real-world emergency applications. I demonstrated the prototype powering a small fan, charging a phone, running an LED display. All simultaneously. When I finished, applause erupted. 2 hours later, after every finalist had presented, they announced the winners. 3rd place, a solar panel innovation from a team in California. 2nd place, a water purification system from an engineer in Texas. 1st place, Leah Hale, for Project 1, Emergency Energy Solutions. The room exploded. Cameras flashed everywhere. People stood and cheered. I walked to the stage on shaking legs and accepted the trophy, heavy, real, mine. $50,000. Investor meeting scheduled. My future suddenly tangible. I glanced toward the back row. Mark's seat was empty. As I stepped off stage, a man in an expensive suit intercepted me. "Miss Hale, I'm Vincent Chen. I want to discuss a significant opportunity with you. Can you call me tonight?" He handed me his business card, embossed, prestigious. I took it with trembling hands. This was just the beginning. But I had no idea how much bigger things were about to become. That night, I sat across from Vincent Chen in a downtown restaurant. River sat beside me, taking notes on her phone and occasionally squeezing my hand under the table. Vincent didn't waste time. I want you to develop a citywide ecotech prototype. Something scalable for municipal use, solar integration, smart energy storage, efficient distribution networks. My mind raced through calculations and possibilities. That's massive. It is. Which is why the timeline is aggressive. He paused. I need a working prototype in 1 month. 1 month. 30 days to build something that should take 6 months minimum. River's grip on my hand tightened. What's the budget? I asked, trying to sound professional instead of terrified. Vincent named a figure that made my eyes widen. Plus full access to our lab facilities, equipment, and a small support team if needed. I stared at the contract he slid across the table. This could launch my entire career. This could prove I never needed Mark. But if I failed, I'll do it, I said. Vincent smiled. Excellent. I'll have lab access arranged by tomorrow morning. He stood, shaking my hand. Miss Hale, I'm betting everything on your abilities. Don't let me down. After he left, River looked at me with wide eyes. Are you sure about this? 1 month is insane. I nodded, already mentally designing component layouts. I'm calling it Project 2, I said. What I didn't know was that Mark was already planning his next attack. And this time, it would be personal. 3 days into development, my email inbox exploded. Vincent forwarded me a chain of messages, all sent by Mark to major investors, industry contacts, and potential partners across the entire tech sector. The subject lines made me feel physically sick. Warning, Leah Hale is unstable and professionally unreliable. Do not invest, history of intellectual property theft and fraud. Urgent, this woman will destroy your company's reputation. Each email contained elaborate lies. False stories about my work ethic. Fabricated claims about stolen designs. Made-up incidents of professional incompetence and ethical violations. Mark was systematically trying to destroy my credibility before I could even begin Project 2. My hands shook as I read through them. Some investors had already responded, asking Vincent to reconsider his partnership with me. Vincent called immediately. Leah, I need you to know, I don't believe any of this. I did extensive research before approaching you. He paused. But I have to ask, is this going to become a legal problem? I forced myself to breathe steadily. Mark Alden is my former supervisor and ex-boyfriend. He's been sabotaging me since I left Harper and Row Innovations. Everything he's saying is false, and I have documentation proving it. Then send me everything. I'll have my legal team handle this immediately. After we hung up, I sat alone in the lab, staring at my half-built prototype. Mark wanted me to quit. He wanted me to disappear back into obscurity where he could control the narrative. Instead, I opened my laptop and worked until 4 a.m., fueled by anger and determination. His sabotage wouldn't stop me. It would only make my victory sweeter. But I didn't know the worst was still coming. A week later, a journalist named Claire Mendez contacted me through LinkedIn. I'm working on an important investigation. We need to talk. I was skeptical, but River convinced me to meet her. Claire was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and professional. She set a recorder on the coffee shop table between us. Miss Hale, I've been investigating Mark Alden for 6 months. You're not the first woman whose career he's tried to destroy. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? She pulled out a folder containing photos, documents, and testimony. I found 3 other women. All brilliant innovators. All professionally destroyed after working with Mark. All too afraid to go public because of his connections. She showed me their stories, an engineer whose groundbreaking work Mark claimed as his own. A designer whose entire portfolio he plagiarized and then had her blacklisted when she objected. A researcher he systematically isolated until she quit the industry entirely. I felt nauseous. Why specifically target women? Control. Ego. fear of being outperformed. Claire leaned forward. I want to expose him publicly, but I need witnesses willing to testify. Even anonymously. I thought about the competition. About Project 2. About every woman who would come after me if Mark continued unchecked. I'll testify, I said. And I'll help you convince the others. Claire's expression shifted, relief mixed with determination. Then let's end his career properly. Over the next week, I carefully reached out to all 3 women. Slowly, patiently, I built trust. One by one, they agreed to share their stories for Claire's investigation. Mark had no idea a coordinated attack was forming. But soon, he would find out in the worst possible way. 2 weeks into Project 2, disaster struck without warning. I arrived at the lab one morning to find half my data corrupted. Critical files wouldn't open. Complex calculations were scrambled into nonsense. Weeks of intensive work, gone. I nearly collapsed. The deadline was in 2 weeks. I couldn't possibly rebuild everything in time. River arrived within minutes of my panicked phone call. She immediately started running system diagnostics while I tried desperately to salvage anything from backup systems. Leah, River said quietly, her face going pale. Look at this. She showed me the access logs. Someone had remotely logged into the lab's network at 2:17 a.m. last night. The IP address traced directly back to Harper & Row Innovations, specifically to a company laptop assigned to Mark Alden. My hands curled into fists. He hacked the lab. We need to report this to the police. No. I was already pulling up my backup cloud storage, the separate system I'd been paranoid enough to maintain independently. We restore everything and keep working. I'm not giving him the satisfaction of knowing he even slowed me down. River and I worked for 18 straight hours. We recovered 92% of the corrupted data. What we couldn't recover, I rebuilt from memory and handwritten notes. By sunrise, we were back on track. Mark had tried to destroy me again. He'd failed again. But I knew he wouldn't stop. And next time, he might succeed. Unless I finished Project 2 first. The day of Project 2's unveiling arrived. Vincent had arranged a major press conference at City Hall with the mayor, environmental officials, and representatives from 3 interested municipalities in attendance. I stood at the podium, my prototype displayed on massive screens behind me. It was a modular ecotech system, solar panels integrated with smart battery networks and intelligent distribution systems that could power entire neighborhoods while reducing energy costs by 40% and carbon emissions by 60%. I explained every feature methodically. Every benefit. Every innovation. The audience listened with rapt attention. When I finished, the mayor herself stood and applauded. This is exactly what our city desperately needs. Miss Hale, you're a true visionary. Vincent approached me afterward, practically glowing. 3 cities want to pilot this immediately. Leah, you've done something extraordinary. That night, the local news ran a feature story. The headline scrolling across screens. Young innovator revolutionizes urban energy solutions. Mark watched the broadcast from his apartment, drink in hand. I didn't know this yet, but his CEO was watching too, and beginning to ask very uncomfortable questions about where Mark's recent innovations had actually originated. The dominoes were finally starting to fall. But Mark wasn't finished yet. And his next move would be his most desperate. The voicemail arrived at 11:13 p.m. I was exhausted, celebrating quietly with River and Vincent's team, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. Mark's voice filled my ear, slurred, unhinged, barely controlled. You think you've won? You've destroyed everything, Leah. Everything I built. My career, my reputation, my entire future, all gone because you couldn't just stay quiet and supportive like you were supposed to. This is your fault. All of it. You're going to pay for this. I swear, you're going to pay. The message ended with heavy breathing and a loud crash. River saw my expression. What's wrong? I played the voicemail on speaker. Her eyes widened with alarm. Leah, you need to report this immediately. I will. Tomorrow. I saved the recording with shaking hands. Right now I just want this day to end. But the harassment didn't stop. Over the next week, cryptic emails arrived daily. My social media accounts were flooded with threatening messages from fake profiles. Someone keyed my car. My apartment building's security camera caught a figure matching Mark's description lurking outside at 3 a.m. River insisted I file a police report, but before I could arrange it, a legal notice arrived by certified mail. Mark was suing me. The claim, career sabotage, intentional defamation, and malicious interference with business relationships. He was demanding $200,000 in damages. I read the lawsuit, feeling numb. This could destroy everything I'd built. I called Vincent, voice shaking. This could ruin me before I even start. No, Vincent said firmly. This ends now. I'm connecting you with the best intellectual property lawyer in the state. She'll handle this. But even as he said it, I wondered, had Mark finally found a way to win? The lawyer's name was Diana Torres, and her reputation was legendary in IP and harassment cases. She read through Mark's lawsuit while I sat rigidly in the chair across from her desk, anxiety eating me alive. Finally, she looked up with the faintest smile. Miss Hale, this lawsuit is absolute garbage. It'll get dismissed within weeks. But more importantly, she slid a thick folder toward me. I did some preliminary investigation. Mark Alden has been systematically stealing intellectual property for years. I found 4 separate patent applications with suspicious similarities to work done by employees who mysteriously left his division. I found NDAs specifically designed to silence victims. I found a clear, documented pattern of abuse. My heart raced. Can we use this? We absolutely can. We're filing a counter-lawsuit for harassment, theft of intellectual property, attempted fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. But I need to know, are you prepared for this fight? It will be public. It will be ugly. It will get worse before it gets better. I thought about the women Claire interviewed. About everyone Mark had heard over the years. About the person I was 8 months ago, standing humiliated in that conference hallway. I'm ready. But I want to do one more thing first. Diana raised an eyebrow. What? I want to show the world exactly what I'm truly capable of. I want to enter the Global Tech Summit with one final project. Something absolutely undeniable. Diana leaned back, studying me carefully. That's remarkably bold. What do you have in mind? I smiled for the first time in days. Project 3. And this time I wouldn't hold anything back. The invitation arrived 2 days later. Elegant embossed letterhead with a prestigious international seal. The Global Tech Summit, hosted in New York City, featuring innovators from 40 countries. The theme, Create the Future. Finalists would receive international media exposure, direct venture capital connections, and a grand prize of $500,000. I stared at the invitation, heart pounding against my ribs. River read over my shoulder. Are you absolutely sure about this? With the lawsuit and everything else? That's exactly why I need to do this. I turned to face her. Mark's trying to bury me legally and professionally. But if I win this summit, nobody will be able to deny what I've accomplished. The lawsuit becomes irrelevant. The truth becomes absolutely undeniable. I submitted my application that night, hands shaking as I clicked the final button. The acceptance letter arrived within 48 hours. I was in. Now I just needed to build something revolutionary in 3 weeks. I pulled out my design sketchbook and began working. This time I wasn't holding back anything. This time I was creating something that would fundamentally change everything. Project 3 needed to be absolutely perfect. Because this was my final move against Mark Alden. And I was playing to win everything. I was alone in the lab late one night, working on Project 3's initial framework, when someone knocked on the door. I jumped. Nobody should have access at this hour. I opened it cautiously, hand on my phone ready to call security. A woman in her 50s stood there, holding a worn leather portfolio. Her expression was serious but somehow kind. Leah Hale? Yes? My name is Maya Reeves. I used to be lead engineer at Harper & Row Innovations. Until Mark Alden systematically destroyed my career 3 years ago. My breath caught. You're one of the women Claire interviewed. Maya nodded slowly. I've been following your work closely. I know exactly what you're up against. She stepped inside, setting the portfolio carefully on my workbench. I developed a patented clean energy blueprint before Mark forced me out of the industry. It's been sitting and used for years because I was too afraid to do anything with it. She opened the portfolio, revealing intricate designs, molecular-level energy conversion systems that were genuinely decades ahead of anything currently available. This is absolutely incredible, I whispered. Maya met my eyes directly. I'm giving it to you. Use it. Build something extraordinary. End him once and for all. Maya, I can't just take. You can, and you will. Because you're doing what I was too scared to do. You're fighting back publicly. Her voice cracked slightly. Make it count, Leah. For all of us. She left before I could argue further. I stared at the blueprint for a long time, tears streaming down my face. I wasn't alone in this fight anymore. And now I had the weapon I needed to win. The coordinated attacks escalated dramatically. My social media accounts were suddenly bombarded with harassment, hundreds of fake accounts posting identical hateful messages calling me a fraud, a thief, a liar, a manipulator. The comments were viciously personal, clearly designed to break me psychologically. My phone never stopped buzzing. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat properly. Couldn't focus on anything except the constant stream of abuse. River found me one morning in the lab, staring blankly at my computer screen while cruel messages continued piling up relentlessly. Leah, you need to shut these accounts down completely. This isn't healthy. I can't. If I disappear now, he wins everything. That afternoon, I received a message from an unknown account. I can prove exactly who paid for this harassment campaign. I stared at the message, heart racing. The sender identified themselves as Zero Trace, apparently a hacker. Against River's loud protests, I responded carefully, "Who are you?" The reply came instantly, "Someone who genuinely hates bullies. Check your encrypted email in exactly 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, a massive file appeared in my secure inbox. Financial records showing multiple transactions from Mark's personal bank account to several online harassment services. Detailed receipts. Complete communication logs. Everything documented perfectly. He'd spent thousands of dollars trying to destroy me online. I forwarded everything to Diana Torres immediately with a simple message, "Add this to the evidence file." Diana's response came within minutes, "He's completely done. Absolutely finished." But Mark still had one final desperate move left. And it would almost destroy Project 3 entirely. Diana filed an emergency motion with all the harassment evidence. Within 3 days, Mark's lawsuit against me was dismissed with prejudice. The judge issued a formal restraining order prohibiting him from contacting me in any form whatsoever. But Diana didn't stop there. She filed criminal complaints for cyberstalking, targeted harassment, and attempted fraud. She submitted comprehensive evidence to the State Bar Association, since Mark had been providing legal consultation at Harper & Row. "This man's entire career is finished," Diana told me over the phone. "The question now is whether you want to pursue maximum criminal penalties or accept a negotiated settlement." I thought carefully about revenge versus justice. About closure versus prolonged warfare. I want him to face real consequences, I said. But I don't want to spend the next 3 years trapped in endless litigation. I have work to do. Understood completely. I'll negotiate a settlement that includes a public admission of wrongdoing and substantial financial restitution. He'll never work in tech again. After we hung up, I returned to Project 3 with renewed focus. The design was nearly complete, a self-sustaining portable energy device that combined Maya's revolutionary blueprint with my own innovations. It was compact, infinitely scalable, and genuinely revolutionary. I worked through 3 consecutive nights, soldering connections, programming complex interfaces, testing power output repeatedly. 3 days before the summit, I completed the final working prototype. It functioned perfectly. But Mark had one last card to play. And he was about to play it. 2 days before I was scheduled to leave for New York, complete disaster struck without warning. A massive power surge hit the lab, some kind of catastrophic electrical malfunction in the building's main grid. Sparks flew everywhere. Equipment shorted out violently. Thick smoke filled the air rapidly. When the emergency lights finally came on, I saw the full extent of the damage. Project 3's main component was completely destroyed. Fried beyond any hope of repair. Completely unusable. I sank to the floor slowly, surrounded by the smoking wreckage of 3 weeks of intensive work. The summit was in 48 hours. There was absolutely no time to rebuild. It was over. River found me there an hour later, still sitting motionless in the dark. Leah. I can't do it. My voice sounded hollow and distant. I can't possibly rebuild this in time. River crouched beside me. Remember what Maya said? Use her blueprint. I shook my head weakly. It's too complex. I'd need specialized components I don't have any access to. Then we get them. River pulled out her phone with determination. We call every supplier, every contact, every single person who owes us a favor. We work straight through the night. We make this happen somehow. Something shifted deep inside me. I'd come too far to quit now. Okay, I whispered. Let's do it. We called Vincent, who immediately opened his emergency supply budget. We called Maya, who provided technical guidance remotely. We called River's engineer friends, who arrived with specialized tools and expertise. For 36 straight hours, we rebuilt Project 3 completely from scratch. We finished with exactly 4 hours to spare. The new prototype was better than the original. Stronger. More efficient. More elegant. Impossible made possible through sheer determination. The Global Tech Summit took place in a massive Manhattan convention center. Creators from every corner of the world showcased innovations, AI systems, medical devices, environmental solutions, revolutionary technologies. I carefully set up my booth, arranging Project 3's display with shaking hands. Every component perfectly positioned. Every connection tested multiple times. River stood beside me, dark circles under her eyes from our marathon rebuild. You've got this. We've got this, I corrected her gently. The summit officially opened. Judges began circulating. Media cameras started rolling continuously. Then I saw him. Mark Alden, trying to slip through the crowd unnoticed, heading directly toward my booth. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled suit, desperate haunted eyes. He reached me before security could react. Leah, please. We need to talk. You're completely ruining my life. I didn't respond with words. I simply pressed a button on my phone. 2 security guards appeared immediately. I'd given them advance warning about a potential disturbance requiring intervention. Sir, you need to leave this venue immediately, one guard said firmly. Mark's face contorted with rage and desperation. You can't do this. I have every right to be here. Actually, I said calmly, meeting his eyes directly, you don't. I have a legal restraining order. You're violating it right now. The guards escorted him out while hundreds of attendees stared. I turned back to my booth, hands finally steady. He didn't get to intimidate me anymore. Never again. The main presentation hall was packed with over 500 attendees. I stood on the massive stage, my prototype displayed on enormous screens behind me, facing a panel of internationally renowned judges. Project 3 is a self-sustaining portable energy device, I began, my voice clear and absolutely confident. It combines advanced molecular energy conversion technology with intelligent smart distribution systems. It can power an entire household for one full week on a single charge. It's infinitely scalable, extremely affordable, and completely sustainable. I demonstrated the prototype thoroughly, running it through an extensive series of demanding real-world tests. It powered a full-size refrigerator, charged multiple devices simultaneously, and maintained perfectly consistent output for hours. The audience sat in absolute silence, completely mesmerized. When I finished, the applause was thunderous and sustained. Investors from 5 different countries immediately requested private meetings. The judges huddled together intensely, clearly deeply impressed. As I stepped off stage, a live-stream interviewer approached quickly. "Miss Hale, that was absolutely extraordinary. What inspired you to create this?" I paused, thinking about that conference hallway 8 months ago. About Mark's sneer. About every woman he'd systematically hurt. I was told I needed someone to succeed, I said simply. So I built my own path instead. The interviewer's eyes widened. "Can you elaborate on that?" "Watch the news tomorrow. The full story is about to break publicly." And it did. That evening, Claire Mendez's comprehensive exposé went live on a major investigative news website. The headline, "Tech Executive's Years-Long Pattern of Theft and Harassment Finally Exposed." The article detailed everything: Mark's stolen patents, his systematic harassment of female colleagues, his calculated destruction of careers. It included powerful testimony from Maya, from the 3 other women, and from me. The article went viral within 2 hours. Harper & Row stock dropped 17%. Their CEO issued an emergency statement promising a complete internal investigation. Mark's name trended nationally on social media, but not remotely in the way he'd ever imagined. Meanwhile, I was in my hotel room when the summit organizers called. "Miss Hale, we have the final results. Can you come to the closing ceremony immediately?" An hour later, I stood on stage again. 3rd place was announced. 2nd place followed. Then, 1st place, with a completely unanimous decision from all judges, Leah Hale for Project 3. The crowd absolutely erupted. $500,000. International contracts. My name on every tech news site worldwide. But the best part? Harper & Row CEO issued a second statement that night, announcing Mark Alden had been immediately terminated and would face legal charges for intellectual property theft and harassment. His career was completely over. Mine was just beginning. 3 days later, I was back home, exhausted but triumphant. I was organizing equipment when someone began pounding violently on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. Mark stood there, visibly shaking. My heart raced, but I didn't open the door. Instead, I immediately called Diana. "He's here." "What do I do?" "Keep that door locked." "I'm calling police right now. They'll be there in 5 minutes." Mark's voice came through the door, broken and desperate and unhinged. "Leah, please. I've lost absolutely everything. My job, my reputation, my entire future, all because you couldn't just stay quiet. You were supposed to be under me, supporting me, making me look successful. But you had to be selfish. You had to completely destroy me." I pressed my back against the wall, phone clutched tight. "I gave you opportunities," he shouted. "I could have kept you comfortable, kept you protected and safe. But you had to ruin everything. You had to be vindictive." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. This is entirely your fault, he said, voice cracking. All your fault. Police arrived. I heard them ordering Mark to step away from the door. I heard him protesting incoherently, still claiming he was the victim. Finally, blessed silence. I opened the door cautiously. 2 officers stood there professionally. One said gently, "He's been arrested for violating the restraining order." "You're safe now, Miss Hale." I nodded, unable to speak. He was finally, truly gone. 6 months later, everything had fundamentally changed. I signed the final papers establishing Hale Innovations as an official company. Vincent was my primary investor and advisor. Maya was my lead engineer and mentor. River was my operations director and best friend. We'd secured development contracts in 12 cities for Project 2. Project 3 was being manufactured for international distribution. I had a team of 15 brilliant people. All passionate, all respected, all valued. Harper and Rowe settled all outstanding lawsuits for 7 figures. Mark pled guilty to multiple criminal charges and was serving community service while being permanently barred from working in the tech industry. But the best part came today. I was standing in a conference room at Global Tech Summit headquarters. They'd invited me back, not as a competitor, but as a mentor and leader. "Miss Hale," the director said warmly, "we want you to lead our mentorship program for young female innovators. We want you to help others who face the same obstacles you overcame." I looked around the room, seeing eager faces of young women who reminded me of who I was 8 months ago, talented, underestimated, ready to prove themselves. "I'd be honored," I said. That night, River, Maya, and I celebrated at the same restaurant where Vincent first offered me Project 2. "You did it," Maya said, raising her glass. "You didn't just succeed. You became completely unstoppable." I smiled, thinking about that conference hallway. About Mark's voice saying I was nothing without him. He was wrong. I never needed him. I just needed to believe in myself.